Hola clase, buenas noches. Hoy vamos a aprender los números. We're going to be learning numbers. We use números a lot in Spanish, okay? Just like we would in English. You use números to express what the date is on the calendar. You use numbers to talk about your age. You use numbers to count the number of items you're going to buy, to talk about time. Numeros are used often, so I think it's important for us at this point to learn them. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I need you to pull up a document, and it'll be in Google Classroom waiting for you. So this document is called Los Números en Español. Take a look here. And I'm going to go through the lesson with you, and you guys need to follow along. You might want to write your números in a notebook, but if you want, you can open up your doc and you can type along with me. So, por favor, escuchen, listen up. So, the first número is 0, and it's spelled as cero. Now, the numbers cero all the way through to 15 are just numbers that you need to memorize. Okay, it's just rote memorization of, how do you say 1 in Spanish? How do you say 2? Etc., etc. So some of you might be familiar with some of these lower numbers. Okay, so following along with me, we have uno, dos, and now there's always been that card game Uno, but there's a card game called Dos. Let me know if you played it. I played it with my son, and it's not that bad. Tres. Now, starting at cuatro, this is where things get tricky because a lot of people know how to say their números en español up through 10, but they don't necessarily know how to spell them. So this cuatro, you hear cuatro and it sounds like a Q, but it's actually cuatro. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. Cinco. Seis. I know I'm going fast, but this is a recording, so you can always rewind. Siete. And I actually want to point out seis and siete to you guys because in the English language, we have that rule of I before E except after C. That doesn't exist in Spanish. That is an English language rule. In Espanol, you can have an E before the I or an I before the E. You just have to listen, use your ear. So, seis is what they actually call a diphthong or a diptongo. And I'm going to highlight that. Okay, oops, that doesn't look very nice. Just kidding. Okay, I'm going to highlight that. So this is what we call a diphthongo. And that just means when there are two vowels next to each other and one of them is predominant, you hear the one predominant sound and not the other. They kind of blend together. So you really hear that eh sound, but you don't hear that e sound. It's not seis, it's just seis. Nice and smooth. Seis. Siete, however, IE, is not a diphthongo. You hear the distinct E sound and the distinct E sound. It's siete, siete. Okay, so seis, siete. Take that rule that you learned in English and throw it out the window when you come into my class. We have ocho. Oops. We have nueve. Question, is nueve a diptongo o no. Nueve. You hear the U, you hear the E. If you hear both vowels equally, it's not a diptongo. Okay, so, and then yes. As you can see, I've color coded some of these, and I'm not going to go over the color codes. Maybe you can put two and two together and figure it out, but I'm not going to go over them right now. Once is how you say 11. It actually looks like the English word once, but it's pronounced as once. It's not called once. Doce. No es azul. I want it to stay blue. Once, doce, trece. You might be seeing a pattern here. You might be seeing a pattern with how they're spelled. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that they're all in azul. Okay, once, doce, trece, catorce, quince. You notice like there are a lot of numbers that people are tempted to put the letter Q in, but Q is actually rarely used for that K sound. Okay, I'm actually going to highlight this. You don't see a Q in any of your numbers until quince. Okay, it's raro. It's rare. All right, now things start getting really easier after quince. Like I said, from cero to quince, you just have to memorize your numbers. But now things get easier. Okay, so 16 is actually called diez y seis. Oops. Diez y seis. One word, una palabra. These are all one word. Okay, but when you think about it and you break this down, you hear diez, and then you hear y seis, 10 and 6. 10 plus 6 is 16, so that literally means 10 and 6. They call 16 10 and 6. Okay? Siete. So now we just have a pattern going on, guys. 10. E, which if you haven't noticed by now means and. Just like y tú and you. Okay, so let's finish these ones off and then we'll move on. Yes. 2. 8. 19. 9. Okay, so if you start seeing the pattern, you're right. And the pattern continues through basically the rest of your numbers up through to 100. But you need to know how to say 20 in order to do all the other 20s. So 20 is called veinte. Okay, and then you just add on from there and you call 21 veintiuno. See that pattern? It's 20 and 1. I'm going to pause here. If we're following a pattern, what would 22 be? If 21 is 21, 22 is 22. And so on and so forth. So I'm just going to quickly write in the rest of the 20s following that pattern. And honestly, I think I can stop doing this now. And I'm going to stop here. So the reason why is I want to remind you as I scroll up to the top of the pink is these are all una palabra. They're all one word spelling. Your 16 up through your 20s, they kind of smush everything together and make it one word, nice and compact. But starting with 30, and luckily this is follows suit for the rest of the time all the way up to 100. Any of your numbers from 30 and up are going to be tres palabras. And that just means 3 words. Uno, dos, tres. 3 words spelling. Okay? So you need to know your prefix. You need to know how to say 30 to start yourselves off. So 30 is 30. But instead of what we did up here, you're going to continue on by saying the space, E space. No, that's literally how they spell 31. So let's try the next one. 32. Same pattern, same idea, 30 and 1, 30 and 2, 30 and 3, but it's just spelled differently. 32. Okay, and etc., etc. So all you need to know are your prefixes and you follow that same pattern. So 40 is 40. Therefore, 41 would be called 41, etc., etc. Okay. Oh. 60 is se. Careful the spelling. People want to put an I in there like seis, but it's not. Okay. 70. There's only one letter of difference. Okay. 80 is 80. 90 is 90. And 100 is called 100. So now you know all of your numeros up through 100. So let's take a look from the beginning. From 0 to 15, you just have to memorize them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, diphthong, diphthongo, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Did we figure out why there's a color coding? Mira. Se repitan, these ones, the little numbers, the small numbers, like the single digits, are repeated. Se repiten. You use all these littler numbers to make bigger ones. This is how you get 21. This is how you get 32. This is how you get 43, etc., etc. Okay, they build off of these little ones. Okay, diez is just one of those ones. You just have to learn it, but it doesn't really get repeated. And then these ones here, they all have something in common. They all end in se. Okay, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then, like I said, 16 through 29 is kind of special because they just, for some reason, they decided to make these one-word spellings. So we have 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. And then after that, the numbers, ironically, they get bigger, but they get easier. Son más fáciles para aprender. Mira, look, you just need the prefix and you follow the pattern. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and then 100 is cien. The one little thing I did not tell you is that any numbers beyond 100, the cien turns into ciento. So if it's 100 plus, why is that bigger? Whatever. Still bigger. Okay. So any numbers beyond 100 are called ciento. That cien magically turns into ciento. So if you want to say 101, that's above cien. So you have to tell me ciento space uno. And then 102 would be ciento space dos. No E in the middle, no letter Y. Okay? And so on and so forth. 103. And then we're going to jump all the way to 124. How would you do 124? You'd say, well, it's beyond 100, so it has to not be called cien, it's ciento. And then space, and then you say 24. 24. Okay, so we will practice, we will have exercises to kind of reinforce these números. Son importantes, okay? These numbers are going to help you to express age, express dates, express math, express time, express like postal addresses, zip codes, express telephone numbers, just to name a few. Obviously, express quantity of items. Maybe if you're buying stuff. Can't spell today. It's been a long day. So, and by the way, it was nice to meet some of you guys. It was great in person. So I'm pretty excited. But those are your números in a nutshell. I hope that was helpful. Like I said, I like to make these videos and put them up because then you be able to have access to them and rewind them and rewatch if you miss something. Okay, not like, when you're in person, but I will leave this up for everybody. So even if you do see me and you are in person, now you have a backup plan, okay? So, gracias, buena suerte. Nos vemos mañana. We'll see each other tomorrow, whether it's in person or virtual. I'm not sure. It's snowing right now. So, ciao.